Voters tend to assess candidates on the two P's and the big N: policies, persona, and the narrative. Here's U.S. Senate candidate Kamala Harris telling her narrative at an event put on by Emily's List, a group devoted to electing pro-choice women to office.
You see, my parents met when they were graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley, in the 1960s while they were active in the civil rights movement.
Harris's father is from Jamaica and taught economics at Stanford University. Her mother was an endocrinologist and breast cancer researcher from India.
Marching and shouting for justice. Who spent full time marching and shouting for this thing called justice.
Her influences were the icons of the civil rights movement: Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, and Constance Baker Motley. They were lawyers, and she says their heroism inspired her to study law. But when she chose to be a prosecutor, she told journalist Katie Couric she had to defend her decision to her family as she would a thesis.
I have witnessed what I think is essentially a false choice that's been presented about this approach to life, which is that you are either in favor of public safety or in favor of civil rights and civil liberties. It's a false choice. You can be both. And that's how I've approached my work and my public service.
Later, as district attorney of San Francisco County, she declined to seek the death penalty against the killer of a police officer. That raised the ire of Senators Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, and then Attorney General Bill Lockyer. Harris went on to write a book called Smart on Crime, in which she argues the most effective way to stop crime is through early intervention. She told NBC's Matt Lauer she threatened to prosecute parents of elementary school children who were habitually truant.
And as far as I'm concerned, a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime, and we need to treat it as seriously as we would any other issue, because invariably that kid will be the high school dropout who will be the crime victim and the perpetrator.
Harris once dated former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, who was a highly influential Speaker of the House in the 1980s and 90s. Some accounts allege he's paved a political career for her. Harris has also been called the female Barack Obama, and the president once described her as the best-looking attorney general in the country. She told Couric comments about a woman's beauty in the professional realm are irrelevant to her.
I refuse to be distracted from the work that I need to get done.
In the U.S. Senate race, Harris has brandished her credentials and what it means to stand up for the people of California, as she did here during the 2015 State Democratic Party convention.
It means defending collective bargaining rights for working Americans. It means taking on those science deniers who insist that the earth is flat, the Loch Ness Monster is real, and climate change doesn't exist.
And she's for immigration reform.
It is time for a full pathway to citizenship.
There have been missteps, though. Harris's campaign has spent nearly half of the money she raised through September of last year. Some of the funds were spent on multiple consultants and swanky hotels. Harris is best known for standing up to the big banks who were accused by several states of rubber stamping foreclosures without due diligence. She didn't like their initial settlement offer.
They were offering California somewhere between $2 and $4 billion. I thought that was crumbs on the table, so I pulled California out of the conversation. And then when we were able to get what we finally got, we accepted that after a lot of heavy negotiations, which is that we brought California $18 billion instead.
But consumer activists are puzzled over the Attorney General's strategy and pace in her criminal investigation into how customers got left with a multi-billion-dollar bill for the closure of the San Onofre nuclear power plant.
If the Attorney General would give the same emphasis to her enforcing the law in this case as she is in pursuing higher office, the case would be over by now.
I'll have that story tomorrow. I'm Amita Sharma, KPBS News.